Now, our next question is from a very well-known in Whitehall and Westminster circles, former civil servant and person involved in the Institute for Government, and that is Jill Rutter. And Jill has sent us these two questions over X. And you'll be glad to know she's not been sycophantic about our podcast. But despite that, we're going to let her ask her questions.
Are you sure she's not been sycophantic? I'd be very surprised. I would think Jill would be a fan.
Oh, actually, sorry.
Have you read to the end?
Oh, yeah, sorry. She says, "P.S. It really is my favourite pod." No.
Maybe the new rule is you only say it after you've asked a question. Yeah, fine. Okay.
I actually genuinely didn't see that. Okay. So her questions, I may be too late for next week's EMQs, but two questions to George Osborne.
Well, she's actually posted it while we're recording the show. You'd think she is too late, but she's not, because we're going to do it anyway in real time.
Because a bit like the budget, our plans are changing all the time. So I've got two questions, George Osborne Ebbals, for that political currency pod. One, if you were guaranteed no political fallout, what would be your preferred move or set of moves to get out of the hole that Rachel Reeves is in? And second, reintroduce the politics. How would you temper that, sell that to make it as politically acceptable as it needs to be? So first of all, the question one, dare I say, Jill, I think is maybe the better question, because the moment you're into the politics, you're back to the kind of all the things that are practically possible. But come on, what if you no political fallout, the Ed Balls dictatorship, what would you do today?
I would rebuild the margins by which I was meeting the fiscal rules and fill the fiscal gap and enable myself to do more to spend on growth-orientated local transport, capital spending, innovation, R&D, capital spending, with a rise in a tax which is everybody's pays, and say that we are all going to make our contribution, and that would be income tax. I wouldn't do national insurance this autumn because of the national insurance rise last autumn, and because it would only be paid by working people. I would do the income tax rise. So I think I actually would do what we thought Rachel Reeves was doing a week ago.
Out on the basic rate of income tax, not the top rate or the higher rate.
Basic rate of income tax.
Okay. I think I would, in this environment, I would cut incapacity benefits by £20 billion, which is the hole that they've got, by reducing the criteria and doing actually lots of the things that the Labour government was trying to do earlier this year, which is reduce the payments for the kind of milder end of incapacity, which is really hard to do in the real world because of all the charities that come out and have a go at you. But clearly it's unsustainable, I would say, to have our incapacity benefit bill going up and up and up. If I was going to do tax, I think I'd do VAT, because, the rate at 20% is below the European rate, the average European rate, which is more like 22, 23%. So I think personally VAT is a better tax than income tax.
Even if it pushes up inflation and means interest rates come down more slowly.
But the bank should be able to look through that, because it's a temporary one-off increase.
So James's first question on this podcast was about how we no longer have to pretend to disagree, but we are disagreeing. George would do it on spending cuts, and I would do it on a tax rise. But I think we should get to Jill's second question, because that in a way kind of complicates matters. What would you do to politically leaven it? I would, if I was politically leavening it, I would not repeat the package on welfare reform from the spring, because I think that was too upfront, cuts orientated, and hit people who are vulnerable too hard. But I would go for incapacity benefit and wider reform of sickness benefits, which I think Pat McFadden will do in the budget. And I think you need that reform as part of your package, so that it's not only about tax rises but long-term savings. And then I would also look to the way in which I could also raise some taxes on people who are under-taxed on higher earnings. And I would do a version of the higher council tax band on higher rate properties, because I would want to say that everybody's making a contribution, but we are asking those with the broader shoulders to make a bit more of a contribution. And I think
we're all in it together. You could stand under my slogan.
Well,
as part of our new party we're setting up.
I have a feeling that you weren't the first person to use that phrase. But I think the bigger answer to Jill's question is you have to make a big forward-looking argument about what our country needs to succeed for the future and to deliver better growth, better living standards and better public services, and ask everybody to sign up and be part of that effort. Unless you don't go out and try and win that argument, and if the tax rise is simply about past failure, I think everybody just feels angry and frustrated and like they're being clobbered to pay for somebody else's mistakes. And that is where I think in the end the politics of the last few weeks have been wrong, because I think Rachel Reeves sounds like she's asking certain groups to pay for the past, whereas actually politically you have to make this about winning the future?
Do you think? I think where we could agree is, and I think was a missed opportunity in the first budget, and I think it's probably too late now. You could have raised taxes because you're a Labour chancellor rather than cut spending, and use the money on a programme of upgrading the British economy, on infrastructure, science,
100%.
research. And I think you would have taken a lot of people with you, 100%. And you would have taken the business community with you. And they would have actually, including things like the employer national insurance rights. And I think that, if you look back to that budget, it was the decision to spend the money on the NHS, which I completely understand is a big political issue for the country and for a Labour government. But it kind of got swallowed up. And by the way, it got swallowed up partly in pay awards, which, didn't buy off the doctors who were on strike still. Whereas, she could have created a new centre ground consensus of a more interventionist economic plan than a Conservative chancellor might run, of higher taxes, but more state involvement in enterprise in parts of the country where the market doesn't work. Andy Burnham was talking about a version of this that he's doing in Manchester at the moment.
And you could have called it investing in the Northern Powers, George, which is, a phrase which would have allowed there to be some agreement across the political aisle. Quick shout out for Jill Rutter, former Treasury civil servant for many years, at the Institute for Government as well as at King's College London. At the IfG, I actually worked with her on a paper she wrote about how you learn the right lessons from how to do independent reviews in government. A very good piece of work. And George and I are actually off to the Institute for Government tomorrow morning with Nick Macpherson, the former permanent secretary, to do
Lord Macpherson,
Lord Macpherson. And I think he's probably also Sir Nick Macpherson, because unlike you and I, he got an knighthood, as well as a big bath. And the three of us are doing...
And I think his father's a baronet, isn't it? So maybe he'll also get one of those.
And a lead. And we are off to an hour-and-a-half meeting with a group of principal private secretaries from across the civil service, organised by the Institute for Government, with Her Majesty's government, about how private officers and PPSs should work with ministers and advisors, and to talk with them about our experience in doing that. And that's good work being done by the IfG. And that's good work that Jill Rutter, I know, is heavily involved in. And isn't it fabulous to have Jill Rutter asking us a question in real time